Hi, I'm Sharon. I'm the founder of Melbourne Kinesiology and Detox Center. I'm a spiritual healer, kinesiologist, and a Reiki master and teacher. I hold a diploma in kinesiology, and currently I'm completing my diploma in counseling. Today's subject is boundaries. Boundaries are bounding us, limiting us, indicating what is within that area. The original reason or creation of boundaries is protection. The house that we are living in, the walls and the roof protects us from the weather, from other people from protecting our stuff, our things, our property, our possessions. We are being bounded by what we have and what we have in order to have it clear. What is ours, what is not. My property bounds from this area to this area. Then it's another person's property, and so on and so on. So the indication, the bounding of it, or the limitation of it, are there to create the differentiation from the vast energy space. Our bodies, or our energy, is bound within our bodies. However, we do know that the energy expands in different ways. But basically, this is my body. This is where I am limited. My body is not there. My body is not here. This is where I am. So, on one hand, the reason or the being within specific clear boundaries actually allows us or enables us to be where we are supposed to be. However, few other things comes in relation to boundaries. Another major thing that comes is the perception of boundary. When we are having difficulties in creating boundaries or setting boundaries, that means that the clarity is not really happening there. We are doing certain things in a certain way because we think, maybe in a very innocent way, that what we are doing is the right thing. So who's supposed to teach us about our boundaries? Our parents, or the person who helps us to grow up when we are young, helps us to create those boundaries. So from birth to childhood, to adolescence, to maturity, we are building and setting our boundaries step by step. This is our perception of what is right and what is wrong. However, what happens when we don't know what is right and what is wrong? What happens if something happens to us between the ages at least of 4 till 8, when we are creating when our amygdala, the gland in the brain, actually creating, first of all, the fight, flight, freeze. What is right? What is wrong? How do I know what to do in certain ways? We are not receiving our indication of what we need to do in a certain situation. If you were raised up, let's say, or went to boys' school, boys only school or girls only school, how will you know how to interact with the other gender? Your indications of it won't be really clear. If you are growing up in a specific community, in a specific religion, in a specific society, you'll be bound according to the rules or lack of this specific establishment, I guess. And then when you might go to the outer world or outside of this society or outside of this community, you will discover that everything is different. Boundaries in this matter were created as a comfort zone, were created to protect us according to those who created these rules and regulations. They are not necessarily good or bad, but they are definitely limiting and bounding. And that is where sometimes people feeling bounded and trapped within this society, with this system, within this community. On the other hand, boundaries are set to create clear, simple rules and regulation to establish certain ways of behavior. Hence, boundaries in this matter are really important to be clear. So when does boundaries getting crossed over? When, for example, someone experienced an abuse when they were younger, whether it's mental, emotional, verbal, physical, sexual abuse, their boundaries or their ability to set boundaries is really different. So when we are talking about abuse, physical, emotional, mental, sexual, verbal, we don't really know how to set the boundaries, because our perception of what's right and what's wrong went out of whack. And you're growing up with a certain feeling of this is right because that's what happened to me and that's what my experience is, but actually it's wrong. It is totally wrong. And that is where our perception is being totally changed. We will do soon another clip about abuse. It's a big, vast subject that sadly is happening more and more and has been happening forever. And that's another part of the control and the power. However, by setting boundaries after being abused, you really need to deprogram and then reprogram the system, because everything has been scrambled. Because if I'll tell a cannibal that he needs to be vegetarian, he'll say, why? I like to eat people. That's what I do. That's how I grew up. That is the right thing for me. But you can't really do it in our society, can you? This is just an extreme example, but there are so many other examples. But setting boundaries might be crucial. The ability to set, or the lack of ability to set, it is crucial when someone has been abused, because they have been controlled by their abuser. Hence, their free thinking has been suppressed. Their free thinking has been distorted. They have been forced to change and to do their own way according to someone else's way that wanted to control them. Hence, that part of their brain needs to be revisited to create it in a new way. So for example, if we will look at some boundaries that has been crossed in a way, in a very innocent way, we can examine or observe the case with Michael Jackson, who was persecuted as a child molester. When him, for all we know, he said, I did not do anything bad with these children. They just spent the night in my bed, in my Peter Pan mansion. He meant it. We do not know what happened behind the closed door. Nobody really knows, beside of the people who were actually there. However, from all we know, Michael Jackson really meant it and believed in it. And if we look at his past, maybe he didn't have much of a childhood as a child performer, and his boundaries were mixed and confused. And he didn't know how to set the right boundaries, and all he was looking for is just to change and to relive his childhood once that he was an adult. So in a way, I'm sure that Michael believed in what he said. Another very strong example can be when people think that they really do the right thing from their point of view. But then something happens and society comes along and it's not. Now, I'm not talking about sociopaths or people who are really have a hard, nasty points in their heart. I'm talking about things that come from truly from the heart, and the person just doesn't have the right set of tools to change it or to create a better opportunity. So they need to learn how to set those boundaries again. They need to create a specific set of rules and regulations that will verify that they are doing the right things step by step. Because otherwise they may just mix their world life with their personal life, with their sexual life, with everything, and everything goes wrong. Everything is just not being appropriate to what they want to do. So with boundaries, they need to be clearly defined, they need to be simple, they need to be very, very clean. They need to be separated. So how many times did you cross your own boundaries? How many times did you say to yourself, oh my God, did I just do it again? I went a little bit too much. I gave a little bit too much. I took a little bit too much. So in order to utilize the boundaries in a healthy way, you must learn to separate, to bound, to limit. What do you do in this way? What do you do in this way? Do you bring work home? Do you bring home to work? So it's about separating, clearing, identifying what is right and what is not right to bring to right here, right now. So I'm sure that lots of us has actually crossed boundaries. But the question is, have we done it from loss of perception? Have we done it because we didn't want to cross, or we did cross our comfort zone? Have we done it because we were innocent? Have we done it because we wanted to push our boundaries? Have we done it because we just simply didn't have any boundaries? So a little exercise for you. So when you're at work and you're playing solitaire, Facebook, Twitter, all of those, is that really what you need to do at work? Or when you're at work, you need to give your full time at work. Boring, isn't it? But that is your commitment. That is what you are being paid for. That is why you are there. So this is about your own self-responsibility and your own self-morals of where you are and what you are. At the moment, you're at work. That is what you were hired to do. You want to check your Facebook, you want to check your YouTube, you want to check any of that, do it at your lunchtime, do it at your break. Your employees give you respect and trust you to do your work properly. And they expect you to do the right thing at the right time. With friendships, with relationships, with family, with work, with spirituality. I would like you to take a few minutes to observe your life, to observe your own commitment to yourself. And I guess as well, boundaries will come extremely with food. So will you take 1 cube of chocolate, or will you take the whole bar? Will you take simple things or a lot of things? Where are the boundaries? Where are the limitations? Are there any limitations? Sometimes the lack of boundaries coming to compensate for the lack of something else. So from that point of view, you need to observe and look at yourself and tell yourself, am I truthful to myself? What are my self-boundaries with myself? And once that you are finding your own self-boundaries, that is when you are not depending on anyone else. That is when you are being cleared or clear with everything and everyone around you, because your intents are clear. Your thoughts are clear. Your emotions are clear. Sure, you might not be perfect, but at least your intents are clear. So if you're coming from your pure heart, then you're coming from your pure heart. And if you made a mistake while you came from your pure heart, let's learn from it. Don't be too harsh on yourself. Learn from it. Someone else came along and said, hey, you crossed the boundaries here. That's not the right thing to do. And you'll say, oh, hang on, but I thought that I was doing the right thing. And then they come, mm-mm. And then society comes and says, mm-mm. So what can you do? Take responsibility. And admit to yourself that you've done the wrong thing, obviously by someone else. If you still believe that you've done the right thing, observe how could it might come across that the other person got hurt, disappointed, in pain from what you've done. And then you might still justify what you've done, but choose not to do it with this person again, or with this set of society, or with this set of tools. And it might be valid in your world, but it's not valid in their world, hence you need to respect them for that. Does that make sense to you? And once that you're doing that, you will find how your life are becoming easier and lighter, because then the people that will be around you will be the people who are matching your energy. It will be people who will be compatible with your energy and your value system. And then you might be able to create your own society, your own community, your own boundary equivalent people that will agree with who you are and what you are, because they might be similar in their value system. Does that make sense? So boundaries can serve you or not. Boundaries can be there to help you or restrict you. You might feel bound, you might feel trapped, you might feel limited, but some people need to be limited. Some people need to be restricted. Boundaries are healthy when you set them in a very clear and simple way. I would love to hear your comments via YouTube or via Facebook. Please be in touch. Thank you very much for watching this clip.